Created in 2015 by the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration with the mandate to offer policy advice to the federal government, the Ministry of Budget and National Planning is a merger of the erstwhile National Planning Commission and the Budget Office of the Federation.
The reason he did this was because he wanted to make sure that the national plans are supported by the budget. The budget is the most important instrument of realizing national plans.
Our service delivery has been enhanced in terms of proper alignment of plans with budget.
The parastatals under its supervision are the National Bureau of Statistics, Center for Management Development, and the Nigerian Institute for Social and Economic Research.
It is our business to look at government policy, to look at events, to look at propositions from government and give government the benefit of in-depth research in any aspect of national life.
The key mandates of this ministry include rendering economic policy advice to the federal government on development of national plans, long, medium, and short-term, annual budgets, monitoring and evaluation of government policies and programs, surveillance on the economy, coordination of state and federal government economic relations through the National Economic Council, and management of development cooperation.
One of the things that we have done is we organize a retreat on the economy in which all the governors were either attended or were represented to discuss the way to move forward with the Nigerian economy.
When this administration came in, the Nigerian economy was trending down. An economic recession was imminent. Determined to bring to life the change mantra this administration had promised Nigerians and to improve the living standards generally, the President constituted a dynamic team to lead this recovery mission. Led by Professor Yemi Osinbajo, Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as the Chairman of the National Economic Council and Economic Management Team, the Ministry of Budget and National Planning serves as the Secretariat for the National Economic Council. Inspired by the shift from agriculture to crude oil and gas in the late 60s, Nigeria's potentials as a major player in the global economy have remained relatively untapped over the years. Her growth has continued to be driven by consumption and high oil prices. Oil accounts for more than 90% of exports and foreign exchange earnings, while the manufacturing sector accounts for less than 1% of total exports. Decades of consumption and high oil price-driven growth led to an economy with a positive but jobless growth trajectory. The result? Majority of Nigerians remained under the burden of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. After more than a decade of economic growth, a sharp and continuous decline in oil prices, along with the failure to diversify the sources of the revenue and foreign exchange in the economy, led to a recession in the second quarter of 2016. The challenges in the oil sector impacted negatively on government revenues and export earnings. Government spending was also constrained to accommodate the shock, coupled with the leakages of public resources, corruption, and inefficient spending in the past.
It was a reliance on crude export that created the dysfunctional economic structure that we've been working on for decades. So the idea is to diversify our source of income, our source of trade, by increasing the value and volume of our non-trade exports, agriculture, manufacturing, solid minerals, and so on, so that it gets a bigger weight relative to crude export.
The current administration recognized that the economy was likely to remain on a path of steady and steep decline if nothing was done to change the trajectory.
I want to assure all Nigerians that we are approaching the solution to our economic challenges with the same will and commitment. we have demonstrated in the fight against corruption and in the fight against terrorism and militancy.
The Strategic Implementation Plan was then developed as a short-term intervention to drive the 2016 expansionary budget of change.
Given the downward slide, we had to take decisive action to stop the slide and to get the economy growing again. So we came out with this Strategic Implementation Plan as a result of the policy measures arising from the Strategic Implementation Plan, as well as the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. We stopped the slide of the economy. The economy is now out of recession and is beginning to grow again.
It's been recorded that the Nigerian Social Investment Program is today a record of the fastest growing social investment program in the world, because we have been able to reach 10 million people within a period of 2.5 years, and that is very large. We started by targeting to cover feeding of children in school. Our target was to cover 5.5 million people. Today we have reached 8.7 million, so we've exceeded the target. There's also an Empower program whose target was to cover 500,000 graduates, unemployed graduates. We have today been able to put in place and employ 200,000 of these graduates. There are 300,000 that have been pre-selected and waiting to be enrolled. The homegrown school feeding program has cut across now about 23 states. We have a conditional cash transfer program, which is a program that enables us to provide 5,000 Naira stipend to the most poor and most vulnerable members of our society. And today we have covered up to about 300,000 people across up to 22 states. Fourth program, Government Enterprise Program. This is a program that gives loans ranging from 10,000 to 100,000 Naira to women, youths, traders that require small loans to enhance their businesses. This is being implemented by a Bank of Industry. But the Ministry of Budget and National Planning, all of this program is the accounting ministry, so the funds resides in us. We pay the beneficiaries, and we've designed the program in such a way that payment is made direct to the beneficiaries through the interbank settlement system.
Though some visible successes were recorded, the need for more to be done to propel the country towards sustainable, accelerated development gave rise to the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, ERGP, a medium-term plan for 2017 to 2020.
We must become a nation where we grow what we eat and consume what we produce. I am pleased to present this economic recovery and growth plan for use by Nigerian people, our friends and partners, and to guide our development efforts over the next 4 years. God bless Nigeria.
The ERGP was developed after extensive consultation. We consulted with the National Assembly, states, our development partners, the private sector. At the end of that consultative process, we came out with a plan that is inclusive, that has credibility, and which is to take the country out of recession and move us back on the path of sustained, diversified, inclusive growth.
The ERGP is a successor plan to the SIP and has been developed for the purpose of restoring economic growth while leveraging the ingenuity and resilience of the nation's most priceless assets, the people.
Our aim, simply put, is optimize local content and empower local businesses. We seek not just to take the Nigerian economy out of recession, but to place it on a path of sustained, inclusive, and diversified growth.
It has three broad objectives. The first is to restore growth. The second is to invest in our people. because our people are our greatest resource. It is not crude oil that is our greatest resource, it is our people. Then the third objective is to build a globally competitive economy.
A major criticism that has trailed past efforts at development planning in Nigeria has been implementation. What can be done effectively here?
The Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, it's not a plan that is new or unique. We have had excellent plans in this country before, the Vision 2020, the NEEDS plan. What has been missing is implementation. The Ergp was designed to be supported by an implementation roadmap, which will be driven by a very close tracking of the implementation of the programs and projects of government.
To speedily actualize the core objectives of the Ergp, an initiative known as Ergp Focus Labs was introduced. Private investments that are stalled to tap into the potential of the private sector resources to drive the economy, while government creates a conducive environment for businesses to thrive.
The Focus Lab idea was to bring those private investors together with public service officials in the various sectors of the economy where we had the focus, to be able to listen to them and attend to their bottlenecks, their problem areas, so that we can provide solutions and the investments can take off.
Data is all part of the process. You are part of the process when you are starting to build the plan. You are part of the process when you are trying to implement the plan, because data goes into that. And you are part of the plan when you are trying to monitor and evaluate the plan. And again, we are in the process of the follow-up. The follow-up really is the monitoring and evaluation of the plans that have been identified either in the Ergp or in the Focus Lab.
And so far, because of the tracking of these projects, we have seen very significant progress being made in attaining the goals of the Ergp.
I can say that between 60 and 75% of Nigerians consume cassava products every day. To turn Nigeria from a mono-economic country, depending on oil, into several, and then you need economic recovery.
For us, the Ergp worked because government came up with an environment where discussions were held. The public sector participants understood what the private sector participants were talking about, and vice versa.
The lab did two things, in my opinion. Truly interpreted the word public-private partnership, and secondly, demonstrated that if you find committed Nigerians in the public service, working with committed Nigerians in the private sector, Nigeria can be a better place.
Now we know we have a clear roadmap of your project stage by stage till after implementation.
We go through a process that's about the first in Nigeria, a process where you see immediate solution to your challenges.
The main aim is to revitalize the economy by unlocking private investments in the key areas of agriculture and transportation, manufacturing and processing, power and gas, and ultimately creating jobs for millions of Nigerians.
The end result is that we want that growth to be inclusive. We also want a diversified economy such that at the end of 2020, we will be able to generate 15 million jobs.
The Ergp Focus Labs have succeeded in identifying more than $22.5 billion in private investments from about 164 projects that can be unlocked. Of this amount, $10.9 billion of them are what we call most ready projects. That is that we are almost sure to unlock these projects and accelerate their delivery by the private sector. These projects are forecast to create more than 500,000 new permanent jobs for the people of Nigeria up until the year 2020, demonstrating the far-reaching impact of the Ergp Focus Labs in unleashing a brighter future for our country.
The President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration's desire to address the huge infrastructure gaps in all sectors of the economy necessitated the review of the National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan as a blueprint for building world-class infrastructure. It is a 30-year plan which seeks to support growth and sustainable development of the economy, enhance the quality of life, and improve Nigeria's infrastructure stock from 25 to 35% as at 2014 of GDP to a minimum of 70% of GDP by 2043, in line with international benchmarks and for global competitiveness.
Infrastructure is critical to the policy of every successive government. The long-term plan that we have for infrastructure is going to last from now to 2043. We are implementing the Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan through delivery plans, which actually keys into the medium-term plans of all successive governments.
The ministry serves as the anchor for the coordination of the various humanitarian efforts in the Northeast region through the Inter-Ministerial Task Force on Rehabilitation of the Northeast and Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative.
This interministerial committee was formed by the presidency, and the Ministry of Budget and National Planning, and myself in particular, was made to chair and lead that committee. So we had ministers of health, we had education, agriculture, water resources, key ministers that had roles to play in this response. And what we were able to do, so us quickly providing relief to people, medical teams were put together and deployed across the affected areas.
The ministry ensures harmonization of activities of relevant MDAs and donor agencies targeted at improving service delivery. The ministry has conducted several capacity-building programs for ministries, departments, and agencies in various aspects of planning and budgeting. The Nigeria Institute for Social and Economic Research, NISER, National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, and Center for Management Development, CMD, have continued to provide research, statistical support, and capacity development under their respective mandates.
It is our job to literally connect the dots for government. It is our job to create a knowledge network in Nigeria. So we relate with the universities, we relate with other think tanks, and we try to bring in as much input as possible. Some of our collaborations are international, both with Nigerians in diaspora and with foreign entities. We have various specializations in NISER. We have everything from economics, and I mean agricultural economics, transport economics, health economics, to political scientists, people who do work in sociology, people who do work in GIS and how it applies to sociology. We have financial economists here who do work, for instance, with the central bank or the Ministry of Finance.
The Ministry of Budget and Planning's functions is exactly planning. Even the budget itself, it's a form of a plan. And statistics is what I would describe as the backbone of planning. Without statistics, you cannot plan. We provide information for other people. We provide the data that tells them this is the current situation of things. So when they are developing their plans, whether it is the budget, whether it is the Ergp, they are basing it on existing realities on the ground.
What the Center for Management Development does is enhancing the capacity of workers in both the public as well as the private sector to enable it to meet the vision of the federal government to positioning Nigeria to be among one of the most developed economies in the world. So what the center does is to look at the manifesto of every incoming government, and we take a training assessment, align it with the government vision, and then come out with what you are seeing here. There are about 132 programs covering every aspect of the Nigerian life.
As opposed to the old envelope system of budgeting where funds were allocated without clearly identified targets to be achieved, Nigeria witnessed for the first time the introduction of the zero-based budgeting approach to the preparation of annual budgets. This ensures that every item of expenditure in the budget is justified.
The concept of zero-based budgeting says that theoretically, each new budget cycle, every item on the budget starts with a zero allocation. So you'll have to justify afresh, why any particular line will get an allocation in any year. So it won't be because it had an allocation last year. It won't be because there's always been an allocation in the last 20 years. So it forces you through that rigor of re-examining what you're doing year after year to make sure that there's still a place for it in your current plan.
We also ensure that the budget preparation process is automated, and that removed a lot of the tendency for inefficiencies or even corruption. We have a web portal where the agency in every ministry, they prepare their budget and they submit online to the budget office. The budget office checks. When they are not satisfied, they alert them, they send it back to them, they check. So there is an audit trail that shows who has prepared what entry within the budget process. So anybody that does anything that is not right can be traced, because there's a log. There's an audit trail that shows who has done what activity at any point in time.
All national budgets beginning from the 2017 budget proposal reflect many of the reforms and initiatives in the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. The 2018 budget preparation exercise was completed in record time and presented by President Muhammadu Buhari in the first week of November 2017 to the National Assembly. The budget reflects government's key reforms and initiatives in the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. The budget was also designed to expand partnership between public and private sectors to mobilize development capital for growth. In line with national priorities, several cooperation agreements were concluded and signed with major bilateral, multilateral development partners, including the European Union, USAID, United Nations, and governments of various countries. Managing this economic cooperation, development aids, and technical assistance programs is also a key mandate of the ministry.
We have a database. We call it the Development Assistance Database, the DAD. The DAD enables us to keep track of the activities that the donors and development partners are doing in Nigeria. So with the DAD, you can see the kind of projects that are being done by the partners. You can see the cost of these programs. You can see the amounts that they are using to implement the programs. You can see updates where there are the status of the programs.
The Ministry of Budget and National Planning serves as the Secretariat for the National Economic Council, strategic for strengthening economic cooperation and management between the federal government and the sub-national levels. Chaired by His Excellency Professor Yemi Osinbajo, it has the 36 state governors, FCT Minister, Minister of Budget and National Planning, and Minister of Finance as members. In the last 3 years, the Council has recorded the highest number of NEC meetings, which has led to a lot of economic policy decisions taken by this administration. Some of these key decisions are the refund of 535 billion naira to states on federal roads, budget support loan facility to assist states settle outstanding staff salaries, pensions, and other liabilities. So far, 35 states apart from Lagos have benefited from the facility. The Paris Club refund. Export promotion drive aimed at replacing oil as the major foreign exchange earner. For the first time, fund releases were tied to monitoring and tracking the implementation of specific projects in line with the policy objectives of the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration. This ensures transparency and value for money in the implementation of all programs and projects.
During the planning, you make sure that your plan is Mbnp compliant. It must have a picture that is specific, measurable, with targets and baselines clearly stated. It's also a systematic process whereby you first of all look at the plan, you establish your indicators, you establish your baselines, you identify your targets, then you go to collect information in a credible way.
The 2017 Half-Year Budget Implementation Monitoring and Performance Report has been produced, while the 2017 Full-Year Projects Budget Performance Report is still under production.
If you look at what has happened, the GDP growth of the first quarter of 2018, that we have attained a GDP growth of 1.95% is a clear indication that our target for achieving a growth rate of 3.5% in 2018 can be achieved, and also our target for the 7% growth by the year 2020 is realizable. Inflation has been trending downwards, so very soon there will be a lot of relief to ease the sufferings of the mass of our people.
With a clear and effective roadmap as we currently have and more time on our hands, these improvements in economic indices and development will translate to visible improvements in the lives of all Nigerians. More than ever, the time has come for all Nigerians to key into the President's vision and support this government to ensure the success of these plans and policies. That time is now.